Hello, everybody. Welcome to Moment of Clarity. This is one of the breaking news episodes where I just kind of go off the top of my head as to what's going on right now. You notice some shit has gone down. There is some chaos, as they say. By the way, let's start off with the fact that I don't mean to toot my own horn. In fact, I can't do that. I'm not flexible enough. But I called all of this. I fucking called this back in August. You can go look at the goddamn tweets. There is evidence that I called all this shit. Okay, back in August, I said, for those who don't understand what is happening, Donald Trump is laying the seeds of doubt about the election system. He's telling people not to vote by mail. He's telling people to show up on the day of. His goal is to create confusion and create doubt on the day of the election. No matter what happens, as long as it's not a crazy landslide, no matter what happens, he will declare victory. Because then it creates a whole systemic dilemma as to how to overrule a sitting president who has declared victory despite the fact the votes haven't been counted yet. And sure enough, that is exactly what happened. There was no landslide. There was at least enough chaos and confusion for Donald Trump to walk out and go, oh, I won. Have you noticed he ends every sentence with that laugh? Or is that just in my head? So, yeah, I called all this back in August. So anytime you wonder whether I know what the fuck I'm talking about, I know what the fuck I'm talking about. But that being said, it's almost impossible now for Donald Trump to actually win this thing. It looks like it's going to Joe Biden. For those of you who might be new to my stuff and don't know what I stand for or what I talk about, I think these are two racist war criminal sexual predators that we get to choose between, which is fun. You know, do you want the blue racist war criminal sexual predator, or you want the red war criminal sexual predator? Racist, forgot that part. So it's a fun little game we play. Most of the systems, and I've been saying this for people who need a reason to relax, who are very nervous about this, who are very upset about this, very on the edge of their seat. Who's going to win? Who's going to win? I've been saying to people, don't worry. Systemically, almost everything in America will remain the same. You'll have endless war. You'll have tens of thousands of bombs dropped on innocent civilians every day. You'll have a prison industrial complex bigger than any country in the world, meaning more people locked up, more lives ruined. You'll have environmental collapse that we're on the verge of, including climate change, but not only climate change. And you'll have Wall Street exploitation of the vast majority of the human beings in this country while they get incredibly rich, extracting trillions of dollars from the hard work of you and me and basically everyone else. And it'll go to a tiny number of individuals who are billionaires or close. So, yeah, don't be too nervous. Not that much is going to change. However, some things will change, little things will change. So I understand if you're paying attention to this. I'm paying attention to this. I'm paying attention to what's going on. And I also like to see, I have to admit, I like to see a bully get beat up. And Trump is definitely a bully. Whereas like Biden's like a doddering old man. Biden is the schoolyard bully who would, beat up the Muslim kid for being different. So it is fun to see that guy go down, I got to admit. But that being said, let's talk a little bit about what's going on right now in these various states. It seems almost Trump could well still win Georgia. It seems highly likely Biden will win Arizona. It seems highly likely he'll win Nevada, and it seems rather likely he'll win Pennsylvania. And if he gets, even just one or two of those, he will get to 270. So really just one of those, I think. Trump and his goons, which Biden's got his own goons. I'm not saying only Trump has goons. Trump and his goons have been running around saying, and by the way, for those of you who might be watching this in 2 days, don't worry. Most of this is most of what I'm about to talk about our election system. You can watch it a year from now; it'll still be accurate, and you'll hopefully learn things. But in terms of the state recount shit that Trump and his goons are running around and saying, take it to the courts. We got to go to the courts because they're not letting us see what's happening and shit like that. And they've shown no proof of any voter fraud in any kind of scale at all. Even the one that they claim to have a witness for in Georgia was 53 votes, which is not enough to change anything. But there's been no true evidence of voter fraud. It's just Trump, having his tantrum. In terms of witnessing the votes, yes, both sides should be able to witness the vote counting. However, in all of these states, in all of these rooms where they are counting the votes, there are Republican observers. There are Republican and Democratic observers. So even in these lawsuits they're putting forward, they're saying, well, yes, there's a Republican observer in the room, but we want more observers. So really, they're arguing whether there's not enough observers in the room. It's not that these are being done in secret by Democrats. That's not how the system works. I'm sorry if it makes you feel good to believe that is how it works. These are two corporate parties who have worked together to create this system, and they own it largely together. Even though I get that Trump wants to win and Biden wants to win. So there's nothing's being counted without any observers from the Republican Party. That is, if you believe that, I'm sorry, you've been misled. And then when it comes to the voter fraud, oh yeah, a bunch of people are running around putting on fake mustache and going into multiple polling places and saying, I am someone else than I usually am, and I would like to vote again. I mean, for the first time. This is the first time I'm voting. Yeah, it doesn't happen. The Republicans have done everything. And look, I get it. Democrats rigged their primaries. I've talked about it endlessly. I'm not saying Democrats are fucking pure in this, but when it comes to voter fraud, it doesn't fucking exist. It's not there. No one even gives a shit enough to go to multiple polling places. It's just not a thing, okay? And even so Trump created, when he first got into office, he created the voter czar. He made a new position, and he gave it to Chris Kobach from Kansas, former, I think, lieutenant governor of Kansas, who had masterminded the interstate cross-check system that purged millions of people, largely people of color, from the rolls. And he gave the voter czar to Chris Kobach. And Chris Kobach said, I'm going to prove that there is voter fraud everywhere. I see it everywhere. And so he went running around trying to prove that there was voter fraud, that voters were voting multiple times here and there and everywhere. And he couldn't fucking find any. They found, like, in his home state of Kansas, they found like one case, and it was like a immigrant who thought she was allowed to vote. Or, maybe they found another case of someone who was in a state where if you're convicted of a crime, you can't vote, and she thought she could vote. And so they locked her up for like 5 years for accidentally voting. And we're not talking about 100,000 of those. We're talking about one person who thought they could vote and fucked up. That is the extent of voter fraud. And that's why the voter czar position was basically canceled. They got rid of it because they couldn't. He was trying to run around acting like there was voter fraud. It didn't exist. I've covered this and torn apart some interviews with Chris Kobach before on Redacted Tonight. So anyone who's telling you that there's some sort of large-scale voter fraud, they're full of shit, okay? The actual election fraud that has gone on for decades and continues is purging of voters from the voter rolls. And this has been done this time around, just like it's done every time around. And the voter purging is largely, I'm sorry if you would like to be racist and think that, there is no racism in this country, which is racist to begin with. even just believing there's no racism in this country is racist. All right, let's start there. So most of the people purged are people of color. That doesn't just mean black people. It's sometimes Hispanic people. It's also Asian people are purged from the rolls. And this is done in multiple different ways. but it all, you know, also it's poorer people tend to get purged far more easily, and so that happens every time around. And in my opinion, that is why these polls are always wrong. I mean, I don't know how these pollsters still have a fucking job. What kind of job can you show up for year after year after year and get it mind-blowingly, breathtakingly wrong? And then you fucking walk out and you go, wow, did I fuck that up? And then the next day they go, welcome back, do it again. But that's what they do. That's what they do at 538.com and Nate Silver and all this garbage. They yet again, just like with Hillary Clinton, yet again, they said, oh, Biden has an 80% chance of winning or a 90% chance or whatever the fuck they were saying. And they're full of shit because they're not accounting for voter purging. They're not accounting for the literally millions of people that have been just torn from the rolls. Okay? So that's why these polls are so far off. There's a ton of people who think they're voting and they ain't voting because they've been purged from the rolls. And some of the forms of purging the Supreme Court has actually ruled are fine. One example is in Ohio. And this is a common tactic, they sent out 1.2 million postcards to people at their address, and they said, we believe this is your address. If you return this card, we'll keep you on the voter rolls because this will be your address. If you don't return this postcard, we'll knock you off the voter rolls. Now, guess what? Out of 1.2 million postcards, about 1 million weren't returned. So 1 million people were purged from the voter rolls. But of that 1 million, does that mean they didn't live there? No. In fact, most of them did live there. They just realized they got a fucking postcard and they thought, throw that shit away because it's a postcard. Who the fuck reads a postcard unless it's got pictures of kittens on it and little balloon drawings and shit? You don't get a postcard from the Board of Elections and think, oh, this is some important shit right here. I better sit down, get out my reading glasses, and see what this postcard says. Hold on, I'm checking the postcard. No, everybody got the postcards and they threw them out with all the other shit. So they got purged from the voter rolls because they didn't return their postcard. And that went, I believe it went all the way to the Supreme Court. And they decided that was fine. I think it was 5-4. That fine, send people postcards, purge them from the rolls if they don't return it. It's horseshit. It's a way of purging, and you may ask, well, that doesn't sound like it's just black people. No, it's not. But the people who tend to live in are more likely to live in areas where there's a lot of apartments. You're moving around a lot. So it also purges young people because they tend to be in college or go from place to place, year to year, renting a new apartment. So it purges young people too. So it's not just people of color, but it tends to hit people of color more frequently, which is why it's useful, more useful to the Republicans to purge those voters. Okay, so that being said, the votes are being counted. They're still being counted. You have millions of people who voted by mail for the first time ever. And something really bizarre would have to happen at this point for Biden not to win. And Trump will try different tactics. He's trying to claim court cases with no evidence, is what his people are doing right now. Who knows what will come after that he'll attempt to hold on to power. But I don't think much will come of it. Biden's going to win this thing unless something truly bizarre happens. But okay, so now I want to get to some of the points that if you're watching this, and even if Biden's already been announced the winner, even if you're watching this 3 months from now, this still matters. This election, even with the purging, proves that the Democrats are a stack of burning shit. And I add the word burning because just a sack of shit. I think that's too nice. That's too friendly to them. Because you can have a sack of shit sitting like across in a room And you wouldn't even notice like it necessarily unless it was like super smelly, but it could sit there and not be a big deal. Sack of burning shit, that you got to deal with. That's in your face. That's a situation. Doesn't matter where in your apartment the burning shit is. That's something. It's some shit you got to deal with. But literally, I didn't mean that to be literally, but literally. So the Democrats have proven in this election yet again, as they do every time around, that they are sacks of burning shit, in that they have wiped out almost all the progressive candidates. There are a couple, Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman, both progressives won, and they'll be joining Congress, I believe. But in general, they have wiped out the truly progressive candidates, truly left in any real meaning. They do that every time around, not by accident, not whoopsie, the real left, the actual progressive just happened to lose the primary. No, it's strategic, and it's done every time, because the Democrats are basically the Republicans, and the Republicans are off in a fucking nether region of bizarre extremism. So the Democrats are Republicans. It is more important to them to purge any leftist thought, any socialist thought, any progressive thought from their ranks before it gets to the general election than it is to win in the general election. They are fine with losing. They are at least more fine with losing than they are with having someone like a Bernie Sanders on the ticket. And that even goes for down ballot stuff. So yet again, they've proven that they are a corporate part of the oligarchy, part of the ruling elite, part of a disgusting cabal of just corporate sociopaths that are richer than you can imagine, and don't give a fuck about you. And that is why they are not taking back the Senate. That is why they've lost ground in the House. And that's why Biden nearly lost this thing. Is because he's just standard corporate shit show establishment. There are some positives that came out of this election, such as in every state, and I'm going to talk more about this on Redacted tonight, probably in a week. So, by the way, there's another Redacted tonight tomorrow night, so tune in for that. But I'm going to talk about this on Redacted tonight in a week. And in every state where something about the drug war was on the ballot, that measure passed. In every state where they said either decriminalizing marijuana or allowing medicinal marijuana or decriminalizing psilocybin, or in Oregon, they even decriminalized everything. I'll talk more about that in a second. But in every state where it was on the ballot, the drug war was slapped down, because the drug war at its heart is a disgusting, repulsive, racist, fucking war against our own people. By definition, it's a war against our own citizens. Whether you personally do drugs, or you personally dislike someone who smokes weed, or you personally are upset by someone who snorts coke, it doesn't matter. That doesn't mean they should be in prison. That could mean they have a problem. That could mean they need some help. But that doesn't mean they need to be behind goddamn bars. And yet the drug war was designed from day one. Maybe some of you are tired of me repeating this. From day fucking one. Pull up the calendar. Find day one. It was designed from day one to be a war on, more specifically, activists and at the time hippies and the black community. And this was revealed. Not a lot of people knew it, but it was revealed to be true by Ehrlichman. What was his first name? John, maybe. The former aide to Richard Nixon. He was in the room when they came up with the idea for the drug war. And he said, we knew we couldn't make it. Richard Nixon had two major groups of enemies, of people that were getting in the way of his ability to run the country the way he wanted, which was shitty. Although if Nixon were alive today and running in, as a politician, he'd be considered a left-wing Democrat. Because that's how far things have shifted. He would definitely be left of Joe Biden. But and so he had two big groups of enemies. He had the activist community demanding an end to war and stuff like that, and he had black people, and he hated them both. And so and Ehrlichman said that we realized we couldn't make it illegal to be a hippie or to be black. It's good they took that step of realizing they couldn't make it illegal to be black. We realized we couldn't make it illegal, so we created the drug war as a way to upend their communities, arrest them, lock them away, destroy lives, and basically destroy the community as a whole. And they succeeded. Over time, they succeeded. And so we now live in America, which is the largest prison state in the world. Think about that for a second. I know sometimes I say it a lot, but you hear that and it washes over you. The largest prison state in the world. There's no other country where they imprison more people or more people per capita than us. It is just us locking up this many people. And a lot of that's thanks to Joe Biden with his, because the drug war wasn't enough. He had to come up with the crime bill, which made it even worse. Lock people away for life for 3 strikes. In some states, there are still people in jail for their 3rd strike, which was like stealing a pair of gloves or a candy bar or a jacket. Can you imagine serving life in prison because you fucking grabbed a jacket? Thank you, Joe Biden. Hashtag thank you, Joe Biden. Not that Trump would have any problem with that. Of all the things Trump is upset about, I guarantee you that is not one of them. Okay, so last point here is there are a lot of things that could have made this election not be in the situation we're in right now. They could have made this election legit in a much easier and quicker way. Could have had the accurate polls and all those things. But we have one of the shittiest election systems. We have the worst election system in the Western world. Large Harvard study found most election observers, international election observers, say they can't certify our elections because we vote on black box machines that are garbage. So here's a list that the mainstream media should be repeating on loop, but they never do they? By the way, click subscribe if you haven't already. YouTube.com/Moment of Clarity. If you're on Facebook, go over to YouTube.com/Moment of Clarity. Click subscribe because it fills the emptiness in my soul. I need you. I need you to click subscribe. So here's a list of things that we could do in our voting, in our election system, quickly. We could do it easily, and it would make a major difference. Ranked choice voting, where you don't just vote for your number one choice, you also list the other choices, and that can create instant runoffs where they realize that someone didn't get 50%, and you eliminate the bottom people, and that also would allow you to vote for your third party choice and not be vote shamed the way people love to do. Ranked choice voting, and they have allowed it in some areas, but for the most part, almost nowhere in America does it. Automatic registration. Oh, by the way, I should pause here and thank Reese Baker for reminding me to talk about this list. Thank you, Reese. And if anybody else wants to shoot topics or ideas my way, you can email leecampmail@gmail.com. And keep in mind, Google will be spying on those emails. Okay, so although I love a good recipe for a Molotov cocktail, you might want to hold that off. It is Gmail. So moving on a list, automatic registration. Everybody should be registered. It shouldn't even be a question. You shouldn't have to go register. You shouldn't have to think about it. You shouldn't have to take time to register. All that horseshit is designed to stop people from voting. Paper ballots. We should have paper ballots in all states, which we don't, believe it or not. And many of you know this. Some of you type on the touchscreen and you get a receipt, but you don't know that receipt corresponds to what you clicked. They can just pump out a bunch of fake receipts. So really, there should be paper ballots that we can recount time and time again. Election day should be a holiday. Absolutely. Like This time around, luckily, a lot of people voted by mail and stuff, so that the not being able to vote because of work wasn't really an issue, but not as much of an issue. Obviously, a lot of people voted on Election Day. So for people voting on Election Day, it's a big issue. People have to work. And this is designed to make fewer people vote because they're fucking at work. And American jobs suck. I mean, a lot of jobs suck in other countries too. I don't want to act like that's just America. Get off your high horse, Canada. I'm sure your jobs suck too. Oh, by the way, something else I'm going to talk about soon is Canada. The Canadian military has announced that they would like to start using propaganda against their own people because the U.S. does it. The U.S. passed a law saying that they could do it, and Canada's jealous. Okay, so Election Day is a holiday. Blockchain open source voting. I am not smart enough. I'm not of the nerd variety enough to understand every detail about blockchain and open source, but I get the basics. And guess what? Everyone could check the code so that no one can have code in these. Like right now, we can have code in these machines that are literally falsifying these votes, and we fucking wouldn't know it. But if you have open source, then you can't. Then everyone can check the code. Blockchain, verifiable. It could be done, and it could be done well, and it could be done in a way that is not stealable. And then finally, publicly finance elections. The fact that we spend billions of dollars on our elections is a fucking joke. It makes our elections, our electoral system in this country, honestly, a laughing stock to every other country. Even ones that spend some money on their elections, they spend nothing near what we spend. Nothing near it. One guy, Sheldon Adelson, one guy in the last election spent $100 million. Bloomberg probably spent something similar this time around. That is more than the Labour Party in the UK spends on their entire election season. One guy. That's how insane our system is. Bloomberg spent millions upon millions of dollars on this election, not just for himself. After he was out, he then spent tens of millions of dollars to help elect Biden. So if we had publicly financed elections and got big money out of elections, then you could have people competitive that are not millionaires, that are not billionaires, that are not funded by billionaires. But obviously the ruling elite doesn't want that, because that would be bad. That would be bad for their little ivory tower. They'd have to compete with average people. Oh, and get rid of the fucking electoral college. I can't believe I forgot to mention that. Get rid of the goddamn electoral college. The whole reason the electoral college exists is in case the ruling elite needs to override the popular vote. Our election should be popular vote, and that's the end of it. That's it. It's a fucking joke that it's not. Again, we're a laughingstock to the entire world. Okay, so here are some thoughts. I hope you enjoyed them that you will not get from your mainstream media. Please click subscribe and click the bell icon. I don't ask for your money on this, on Moment of Clarity. I only ask for you to let people know. Please share this. Send it to people. Click subscribe. And I do these almost every single day. These are the Moment of Clarity rants, and you can get them at leecamp.com. My videos are incredibly suppressed, so you have to decide. You have to make a choice. You have to turn on the bell in the brain and go, hey, I'd like to go see the new video almost every single weekday, except sometimes at leecamp.com. All right, everybody. I'll probably be doing another live stream with Eleanor Goldfield this weekend, so keep an eye out for that. You can learn about it from my email list. You can join that by texting redacted to 33777, and you can also join the email list at leecamp.com. Okay, keep fighting.